Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We have an amazing topic today. We begin with the Gemara on Tzadi Hey Amud Beis. The Gemara brings the statement of Abaye. Abaye said that if someone says, my property will go to you and after you to Pliny, and she gets up and she gets married, then the Baal is considered the first buyer, and the after you never takes effect. In other words, somebody said, I'm giving it to you, and after you, when you die, it will go to so-and-so. This woman gets married, it will never go to so-and-so, because the husband is the first buyer. So Gemara asked the following question. Umi Amar Abaye Hachi. Did Abaye say this? The Amar Abaye, Ezehu Rasha Araim. Who is a devious wicked man? Zahamasi Eitza Limkar B'nechasim. This is someone who advises someone to sell property. Reb Shimon Gamliel, following the opinion of Reb Shimon Gamliel, that if somebody says, my property belongs to you, and after you to somebody else, if that person gets up and gets married, the somebody else will never get it, because the husband will be considered the first buyer. So somebody who advises to do that is considered a Rasha Araim, a wicked man who is devious. And the Gemara answers, Mi ka'amar tinaseh. Does it say she should get married? Niseis kamar. It just says if she got married, it would go to the husband and not to the after you. So let's analyze this idea. Who is a wicked, devious man? What is wicked and devious about advising someone who was told, you will get the property, and after you it will go to so-and-so? It seems like it's considered devious to advise them to sell it to somebody else. Now, what's the Gemara's question? What's the Gemara's question here? How could Abaye say that? Is anybody advising anybody about this? Is the Gemara's question, how could the woman get married? But let's think about that for a moment. Who is the wicked, devious person here? Is it the person who gives the advice? Or is it the person who is supposed to receive something, and after they receive it, it will go to so-and-so? For them to sell it, is it prohibited for them to sell it and to circumvent the receiving of the person who is supposed to get it after them? In other words, this idea of a Rasha Araim, who is the Rasha Araim? The one who advises the woman to sell it? If the woman sells it, is she a Rasha Araim? Right? You hear the question. In other words, who is labeled the Rasha Araim? The one who sells it or the one who advises? So interestingly, if you look in Baba Basra, where this idea is quoted, the Rashbam in Baba Basra says, Rasha Araim Goyreim Lavar al Divrei Hanoisein. The giver causes the one who gives the advice causes the one who gives it to his plan to be foiled. Meaning, he knows the noisein once. By the way, this Gemara in Baba Basra is on Daf Kuf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. And if someone advises the woman to sell it, it's violating the plan of the noisein. Says the Rashbam, Araim, what's trickery? De ahanu masav. His actions were effective. V'harehu chayte v'loy loy. You know why he's wicked and devious? Because he sinned and he got nothing out of it. Meaning the woman who sold it got something out of it. Instead of her dying and it goes to someone else, she benefited by selling it. But the one who advised her to sell it is what we call a chayte v'loy loy. It's one thing to sin, but to sin when you get nothing out of it is much worse. Umihu, however, hamoicher atzmai, the seller himself, dahainu rishain, The first one, loy mikri Rasha, is not considered wicked. You hear that? The one who's the person who sells it is not considered wicked. It's only the one who advises him to sell it. The seller, is violating the das of the noisein. Okay, she's making money off of it. It's not nice to go against somebody's plan, but at least if you're making money off of it, you have an excuse. But the one who gave the advice is mamish Rasha. Why would they advise someone to hurt somebody else and they don't stand to gain? By the way, that's a major yesod. That try to avoid averos that you get nothing out of. They're much, much worse than averos you get something out of. At least if you get something out of it, you have a face, you could say, I wanted a benefit. But it's extra devious to be a choite v'loy loy. There's even a chazaka in general. Ein adam choite v'loy loy. Okay, so now we're learning, based on this Rashbam, that the wickedness is on the part of the advisor, not the one who does it. Well, if the wickedness is on the part of the advisor, what's the Gemara's question? Did Abaye say that if somebody says, my nechasim go to you and after you to Pliny, and she gets up and she gets married, it will go to the husband because he's the first buyer? What's wrong? What exactly is wrong? Abaye said, Ezehu Rasha Araim Zehamasi Eitza Limkar B'Nechasim. Okay, it's true. If you advise someone to do this, you're a Rasha. But only the advisor is a Rasha. The woman is not a Rasha. So what's the question? How could the woman do it? The woman's allowed to do it. What exactly is the Gemara asking?
Wasn't a question on Abaye himself that maybe Abaye is giving such an eitzah? It's his shita, and therefore it's his eitzah.
So the Sma wants to prove from here that even though the person who does it is not a Rasha, but the person who does it is not allowed to do it. And therefore the question is, how could the woman get married? The woman's not allowed to do it. What do you mean? I thought only the one giving the advice is a Rasha. Yeah, only the one giving advice is a Rasha. But the one doing it is still not allowed to do it. She might not be a Rasha, but she's not allowed to do it. Otherwise, the Gemara would have no kasha on Abaye. And by the way, the Rashbam says it explicitly. The Rashbam says here, even though l'chadchila you're not allowed to do this, delay chamar isure, because the isur is not so sharei hishlitai hanoisin beguf uperes lasis bem kertzainai. L'chadchila you can't do it, but it's not such a chamor isur, because at the end of the day, the giver gave it to you, that you should own it for the guf and the purest to do whatever you want. In other words, the Rashbam learns the Rasha is only the advisor, but the one who does it is still not doing the right thing. So the Sma says that's muchach in our Gemara. Otherwise, what's the Gemara asking? Umi amar Abaye hachi. It's not like there's nobody giving advice here, and the woman who does it, so she's allowed to do it. It must be, no, she's still not allowed to do it. The advisor is a Rasha, but you're still not allowed to do it. Rabbi Yashiv, in his Ha'arais on the Gemara, he also wants to prove that if the Gemara is asking on Abaye, it must be the woman who does it is not allowed to do it. Says Rabbi Yashiv, Hine Abaye lo yamer to have a Rasha aram ela hamasi eitza kazula achirim. It's only if you give the advice to others. Avala adam atzmai shamaycher eno nikra Rasha aram. The person himself who sells it is not wicked. And still the Gemara has a kasha, the mideh chazinon da achar hamasiyai. Eitza nikra Rasha aram. If we see that if the one who gives the advice is a Rasha, it can't be that the one who advises to do something is a Rasha and the one who does it is a tzaddik. It must be the Baal Davar himself. It's not right for him to do it. Harei de gam ha-Baal Davar atzmai ein hagon lasois kein. Ela da ha-choymer shel Rasha arim zeh dafka be'achar hamaisiyai. The choymer is on the one who gives the advice. Kivan shu chayte v'loi loi. So it means the Gemara would be asking that since Abaye said giving this advice is wickedness, then it must be the one who does it is not doing the right thing. So the question is, so how could the woman do it? So on that I would ask, what do you mean, who said the woman's allowed to do it l'chadchila? Which is what the Gemara answers. The Gemara says it doesn't say she could get married l'chadchila. It says if she got married, it works b'diavad. So I guess you could ask the question, what was the Gemara's Havamina? Does it say here the woman's allowed to get married l'chadchila and foil the plot of the noisein? So I think there are two questions on the table. Number one, is that really the Gemara's question? Is the Gemara asking on the woman that the woman's not doing the right thing? And number two, isn't the Gemara's answer pashut? It doesn't say she could get married l'chadchila. It just says if she does, it works. So I think if you look in the Shita Mikubetzes, it will give clarity really to both questions. And similar to what Rabasi said, and accordingly maybe then, you wouldn't have a raya anymore, maybe that it's not right at all for the woman, maybe the woman could even do a l'chadchila.
I mean, it sounds like a woman has a chiyuv to get married, though.
A woman has a chiyuv to get married. Unclear. A woman does not. The mitzvah of having children is on the man, not on the woman. Does a woman have an obligation? What?
For pure but for shvisa, right? We say that.
Well, then, b'chlal, what's the Gemara say? That the Gemara didn't say that. The Gemara doesn't say. So then, the Gemara says she could only get married b'diavad. So what? She can only get married b'diavad. Doesn't she have to get married?
Then we say what the purpose of her getting married here. If the purpose for her getting married is so that she can, keep this the money, then that's one thing. But she just gets married, stop just to get married, then it's different. What's the driver? Why is she getting married?
Right. Let's see the shita. He says, "Mi ka'amar tinasei nisis ka'amar kashali the karile my karile." What was the havamina here? We know what it says. It doesn't say tinasei. It says nises. Venerally says the shita diu savar. The Makshin held the kivan de hamilsa de haramahu. Since this is trickery, ve'itzal l'nesuin kaima. And a woman is oimed to get married, lahavalon la'achuche be kulehai va'afil b'lashon di'eved. It shouldn't have even said a lashon b'di'eved, because this is a trickery, and he's sort of uncovering the trickery. V'hashta mefarkinan, and the answer is no, we're not worried about it. The kivan dekani v'nises, since it says if she got married. We're not worried about her getting married just for the sake of foiling the plot of the noisein. Maybe it is like what you said, that it depends why she's getting married. V'yagdol Torah v'yader, and therefore it teaches it to expand the Torah. Which is now an interesting concept. The question is, why teach this halacha when it could lead to trickery? The answer is we're not worried it's going to lead to trickery. Why? Because we say it in a lashon b'diavad. Once we're not worried about anything, so adarabba, it's better to expand the Torah. V'oid yesh laimar, you could say further, dekari la savar, the Makshin held the chikatani v'nises. When it says v'nises, the Makshin held the masha afilu l'chadchila. That maybe implies even l'chadchila. Kedetanan besula nises. Maybe v'nises means l'chadchila. Metartzina no the amda v'nasa lashon di'avedhu. If she gets up and gets married, that's the lashon b'di'aved. But v'harishan yoyser nachenhu. Haritva. The Ritva says the first pshat is better. But listen to this. Watch the shita. V'linera midoloi pasuk Abaye hilchos Reb Shimon Gamliel b'chud. Abaye didn't just say halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel. He went out and he taught. Nichsi lech v'achrecha leploini v'amda v'nises v'havalei lahalim ha'inyan debal loy keach ave. Why did he spell out this case that the husband's a buyer? Doesn't everybody know that a husband is like a buyer? Why did he have to spell it out here? Just say halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel. That nichse lach v'achrecha leploini yard arishanu machar hasheni moitzim yad halakuchais. Why did he have to apply it and spell it out to a case of a Baal? Umida avid memra ba'an pei nafshi. The fact that Abaye painted this whole amazing, this whole elaborate case, applying the Baal being a buyer to this. He's trying to teach the world. Abaye hachi. So it's like Abaye is advising people. Remember we asked, the Sma wanted to prove, what's the Gemara's kasha? Aroim Rasha is only going on the person giving advice. Nobody's advising her to do this. So it must be, we could prove like what the Rashbam says, that if it's usher for the one to give advice, and the one giving advice is a Rasha, then the one doing it must be doing something wrong. Says the Shita, the question is not on the woman, the question is on the one giving advice. You say, who's giving advice here? The answer is Abaye is giving advice. Abaye could have just said, halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel. Shimon Gamliel is not talking about somebody who said, this should go to you and after you to somebody else, and the person gets married. Reb Shimon Gamliel is talking about a case where the person sells it. Abaye spells it out to a case where the person gets married. Abaye spelling it out is like he's the one giving the advice. Demidikava Abaye hach memra lelamed ulahasi eitza amra. The fact that Abaye made, ulahachi kashale tamuda. Therefore, the Gemara has a question. Demidikava Abaye hach memra lelamed. That the fact that Abaye established a statement to teach ulahasi eitza amra. V'tikshi mimaydika the amar iyu gufei the mikri Rasha araim. Abaye making a statement out of this is akin to Abaye advising people to do this. And the Gemara answers, Umashani adarab holiest the davka b'di'eved. Abaye is not advising, he's gufa saying v'nises, that it's only b'di'eved. Okay, the ka'amar nises hu the ka'amar kain. Since it says nises, that's not called advising. He's saying this would only be b'di'eved, b'l'chachila. You should not marry to foil the plot of the noisein. So according to the way the Shita is learning, it's different than Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv is learning the questions on the woman, and the Shita is learning the question is on Abaye. Okay, by the way, the Shita is how we learned it. When we learned the Gemara, we learned it like the Shita Mekubetzes. So when I saw Rabbi Yashiv, I sort of was wondering, what's the proof that it's usher for the woman herself? What's the Gemara's question? So we have sometimes you instinctively learn something a certain way. Doesn't mean we should have learned it that way, but the way we learned it, would be another approach. It would be really a question of what is there in fact a proof that if it's usher to give the advice, it would also be not proper for the person themselves to do it. Okay, Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. This coming week, we might, I would like to do what we did again this past week, to do a blot and a half, if that's possible. And wish everybody a wonderful day. Okay, Kol Tov. Be matzliach.
Thank you very much.
Kol Tov. Chodesh Tov. Bye bye.